Aloha, astrology lovers. It's so nice to be here with you today. I am here with Natasha Alter, Evolutionary Astrologer. And today we are continuing the conversation that we started 2 weeks ago on astrology in the age of Aquarius. So what we're really talking about here is up leveling the conversation, addressing our vocabulary, addressing the sometimes the fear or the concerns that we have about certain placements in our chart. What we're doing is we're expanding the conversation so that we can align astrology with the expansion of our consciousness. Natasha, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yes, I am very happy that we're starting this conversation. It has been percolating for quite a while already with me, and my observations around how we are carrying sometimes or have these carryovers of the old definitions, which are based on the old value systems. You know, sometimes even last century's value systems are now changing and being upgraded. So with that, I strongly felt that we need to, our vocabulary, our definition, the way we experience the archetypes themselves are expanding as well. Nothing stays the same in this universe. So I'm very, very happy that we are joining here together with the audience, with the whole Astrology Hub family, so we can participate and co-create this new paradigm within astrology. And I would also like to thank everybody who has posted amazing comments after our first meeting. It was very, very fulfilling to read them. And I really appreciate that people start reflecting and giving their feedback. It's very important that we all participate in this process. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. So keep the comments coming. Natasha and I read all of them, and it really encouraged us to keep this dialogue going. And it's feeling very important, especially this topic of our vocabulary and the words that we use to describe ourselves, to describe our experience, that those start to shift and change, at least for us to shine the light of awareness on the words that we're using and what impact that might have on the way that we're experiencing our reality. So this is really exciting. So it's great to be here with you. And what we're going to do today is we are going to start with some of the comments that came in from our last talk. And it really is, again, that this expansion on the vocabulary. One of the comments was on the use of the word oppositions. And then another one is based on Neptune's placement in the chart. So we'll go into that. And I wanted to start with the first comment and just read that to you so we can use that as a starting point for our conversation today. Okay, so Jacqueline wrote in, I have recently chosen to look at the oppositions in astrology as opportunities to use the energies to complement one another. Even the word opposition denotes fear, as though the two planets are going to run me through the ringer and cause a ruckus in my life. But in truth, anything I have ever saw as opposite has truly been two sides of the same coin, black and white, masculine and feminine, etc. So Natasha, let's talk about that. Let's go a little bit deeper on this topic of oppositions and it like immediately bringing up this clash or this idea of a clash.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for the comment, Jacqueline. Well, let's look again at the very word opposition. Position, opposition. It has a Latin origin, and it basically means something different to position, something across from position in time and space. So in itself, it denotes spatial relationship, nothing else. You see, it's clean, it's descriptive, it is a vantage point, is a relationship in space. However, when it descends into our human consciousness, depending on where we are at as a collective, we're going to play out those phenomena and those aspects differently. So, having said that, what is opposition in itself does not carry conflict. But you see how if it lands in our current collective understanding that when somebody is in front of you or against you, they're literally against you. We are a conflict ridden consciousness in many ways, you know, aggression ridden, fear ridden. So in our terms, in human terms, all of a sudden it became conflict evoking relationship. However, in itself, just like Jacqueline said, it denotes a relationship. And in fact, it's one of my favorite aspects in chart, because it is activating the self-inquiry. You know, we incarnate here on this plane where we get to know ourselves through the other. We incarnate with others so that soul work can happen, and so that others can serve that reflection back to ourselves of who we are. So you see how opposition is actually inviting that self-inquiry and self-knowledge.
So opposition could be looked at as like a mirror.
Exactly.
It's essentially reflecting back to us something.
Exactly, exactly. It is self-exploratory aspect. And it's whenever you have opposition in the chart, because of the tension, because of the very active presence, there is one planetary energy, there is another, there is one aspect of yourself, there is across from it another. They are stimulating each other to actively explore their essence. And in a way, it's moving us to continuously look and be called upon, right? Opposition, called upon ourselves.
Well, Natasha, even the word tension in our current vocabulary,
Exactly.
it doesn't. We have an inclination towards comfort, so
Exactly.
that in and of itself is seen as an issue. So
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Even if we would use the word against, you know, we have, let's say, Saturn against Sun. It's again, once again, our words are loaded with confrontational energy. That's why it's so important, you know, to use our whole own mind and reflect ourselves on a lot of established perceptions, so they don't evoke automatically fear in us, or create an expectation of reality which does not necessarily have to happen.
It's introducing it into the conversation, and it doesn't actually need to be there.
Exactly, exactly. So you see how responsible we are to have our own clear, deep perception of what is really going on without applying any judgment, so that we can creatively use the energies within our chart or energies within a client's chart to express it in a creative, beautiful, powerful way, rather than be contracted by predetermined, you know, outcome. So, you know, like I would like to mention about the positions. We have, even just within the zodiac, the 7th house is opposing the 1st house. The relationship placement in our chart opposes the self, the 1st house. Libra opposes Aries, and that's where we form relationships. So even within the zodiac, we can decode that opposition in itself is about relationship. So yeah, I think it's very important for all of us to just upgrade and reflect upon, so that we can transmute a lot of all perceptions that might have impact the way we understand our chart, and therefore the way we view our journey, our evolutionary journey itself.
Yeah, yeah. Natasha, can I just for a moment, I want to take this beyond astrology just to illustrate experience of this in my life with when I was going through, I see, this is funny, the vocabulary is so important. Even the word divorce is hard for me because it means an ending or a separation. And the truth is, for many of us, when there is a, an ending, it is actually more of an evolution of a relationship. It's not that a relationship is over, it's that a relationship is changing. I haven't yet found the new word for divorce, but when I was going through that process, the built into the system were the words plaintiff and defendant. So the process itself was already set up so that it was going to be a war. It was even the fact that you have to go through the legal system shows that it's like, but it is in and of itself, it is set up that there is a plaintiff and there's a defendant. There is actually like a clash and a war happening. And it's interesting to go through that process with a conscious awareness because through it, I say, well, it doesn't feel like that. It actually is. That's not my experience of it, but there's this suggestion that it should be, or it is meant to be, or, so it's amazing to just see what little things like that. And they're all around us. They're all around us all the time. Yeah. So yeah. I just invite you in your daily life. I'm sure many of you are doing this already, but just to start to pay attention to the words that we use and how they set up expectations, how they actually shape the reality. One of the things that I love about the Hawaiian language is how carefully it was engineered. And the word aloha is the most used word in the Hawaiian language for a reason. It's not hello and goodbye. Aloha means love. It means divine breath. It means many, many things. But in terms of vibration, it's like if you could, they actually measure vibration. It's like a 9.6 out of 10. So it's one of the highest vibration words that you can have. And the language was engineered so that it would be used the most times. So here you are, you're just using your language, and through the words that you're using, you are actually creating a high energy around you, a high energy field. So again, it's like looking at the words we use within astrology, looking at the words we use within our lives, and having a little bit of a critical eye about that, and choosing to use words that actually construct a reality that feel more aligned with who we are.
Yeah, still preserving the nature of that energy and playing with it with different variables of how it can be both perceived and expressed. I can give you another example in astrology. The seventh house, the house that is across the first, which is self and other, it used to be called, or it's still called, besides other things, it's relationship. It's in old astrology, it's marriage as well, which is actually still happening. Proving itself to be the case. It's also house of enemies. And I remember when I started learning astrology, and I was reflecting upon, wow, it's a house of enemies. So it's both your partner and your enemy.
Whoa.
And so because it's, I was a newbie and I was very susceptible to what the, established astrology and astrologers are telling me. So I do have presence in my seventh house very strongly. I was like, wow, does it mean that I'm supposed to have enemies? And it was not even in my universe. Neither awareness nor suspicion that I have enemies, but all of a sudden that word started implanting some sort of suspicion or perhaps inquiry. Do I have enemies, or am I supposed to? So it took a while for me to understand how the enemy is the coming in a package with the conflict-ridden perception of reality. It's opposing you, so it is your enemy, and we can't drop it. If you don't have enemy in your intention on this planet, it's your soul's intention to have this experience on the planet doesn't contain the experience of having an enemy or conflict, it will not arise. Quite the opposite, you're going to be bringing people who are going to be complementing who you are and reflecting it in a beautiful way. So yes, Jacqueline, she's very right when she says that it is about complementing rather than separating. And that's why it's important in astrology to use pairs whenever we bring one archetype or one house position. We need to bring in the other because they belong to the same frequency.
Okay, help me with this, Natasha, because I've recently been experiencing that so I'm a Capricorn sun, right? And I always felt like Cancer was really foreign to me. Like the perception I had around Cancer was that it was actually like so different from me that I could never even really relate with Cancer. But recently I've had experiences with, and remember I told you at one point, I was like, there's like no Cancer energy in my life. Like I never meet Cancers, and you laughed. I remember you laughed because whenever I say things like that, it's always like a precursor, and it's like, okay, welcome, here come all the Cancers. So anyways, like when we're looking at that opposition, can we use that as an example? Yes. How can we see that as not an opposite, like different, foreign, but
You just disappeared for a moment.
So. I disappeared.
So what did you say? Not as
not an opposition, but as a reflection.
Well, you're so well embedded in your Capricorn essence. It has a powerful placement, and it's in the last degree. So your Capricorn identity is pretty buffed up. And whenever you see Cancer in front of you, whenever you come across Cancer, it is becoming so not you, so not how you are. That's why you experience that as a foreign energy. I don't know this energy, but that's precisely why you don't know it, is because it's so not like you. However, through the Cancer, you can also see how you are by seeing the other side of the expression of that line and lineage. You can even more tap into, wow, this is what I am, rather than having it as what I'm not. This is who I am, and this is how my energy expresses itself when it goes to the other side of its archetypal flow. So you see how not recognizing it actually can be like explored. Oh, this is what I would be if we turn the coin, and actually it's healthy to bring in the opposing energies to your life, because it's oftentimes creates a wonderful alliance. It's an alliance, it's a team which can beautifully work together to co-create and magnify the experience of harmony.
Very nice.
I see a lot of successful couples having opposing suns, or sun opposition moon, or moon oppositions. There is that definite complementary, completing magnetic attraction.
Okay. Very good, Natasha. I would love to invite more comments from all of you on other words besides opposition that are built into the astrology vocabulary or language. Like, think of anything that might give you some constriction, or like just the thought of it gives you fear. And let's start a dialogue around those words as well. So let's go to the second comment though. Natasha, are you ready to move on, or is there anything else you want to say?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So Jana says about last talk, this talk was so liberating. Thank you so much. You've given me a whole new perspective on my 7th house. I was once told that because Neptune was the only planet in my 7th house, I was doomed to confusion and disillusion within my interpersonal relationships, that there needed to be other planets there to support a long-lasting, healthy dynamic within my couple, that I could just forget about ever finding the one.
Wow.
I know that's pretty intense, right? I now see that this aspect is actually a blessing. I am not bound to or limited by other planets. I am free to dream and explore. I can choose whomever I wish. This aspect leaves me open to explore and find a love that suits my soul. I see it as an open dance card, ready to be written upon, as opposed to being predestined and filled with limitations. Thank you again for this new outlook on life. So let's talk about that one.
Beautiful. That is so beautiful. Thank you so much for this beautiful comment, and thank you for taking charge of defining for yourself what this placement or other placements are from the perspective of your soul. The thing is that when we align with our soul's intent, every placement in our chart becomes the tools with which we are accomplishing that intent. So, if we take, I'm very glad that you healed that prediction and that you chose to have your own interpretation, which is different, again, from the values. That astrologer which gave that reading or that prediction is coming from certain values of what he or she considers to be happiness or truth or desired. You see,
like finding the one, but that would be
finding the one, or even lasting, so Neptune in itself is not interested in lasting. Neptune is not about lasting. Neptune is about eternity. It's about timelessness. It's a place where the moment can last eternity. Because
so Neptune is not about lasting, you mean Neptune's not necessarily about like a lasting committed relationship? Like that wouldn't.
No,
wouldn't be the intention of
Neptune. It can be if that relationship is reflecting the Neptunian quality and is capable of sustaining that vibration. With a Neptune, if this person meets somebody who is operating on similar intent to create a very deeply spiritual, unconventional, soul-based, spirit-based kind of a connection, and they are not concerned with boxing it into any kind of a time frame, it can flow forever. With Neptune is forever, and forever can last a day. You can connect to somebody, look into their eyes, or you can have a relationship for a week or fall in love. And from Neptune perspective, it is an eternity. So, this soul, this beautiful woman who is so creative in her thinking and now is liberating herself, is not necessarily come here to experience what is considered to be in the Saturnian realms, lasting, solid, all of that. Her intention is different. So we need to give people the interpretations where they can empower themselves and they can play and live with the placements and with their chart from that highly vibrational perspective. Encourage them to evolve within that, to approach it within freedom rather than very limiting and rigid kind of perception of how life itself should be. Now, and when you say confusion and delusion, this is again the old established perception or stigmas that are attached to Neptune. Delusion, confusion, of course. Okay, I have a lot to say about it, but we don't have much time.
Natasha, go, let it go.
I have a lot. I think it should be actually a separate subject because Neptune has been so misinterpreted and misunderstood maybe, or understood from a certain vantage point or certain platform, which might no longer be valid. And we need to expand the boundaries of what it is actually, from the Neptune. If we go to Neptune and we look at what's going on here, we're sitting on Neptune and we're looking in towards the Earth and everything that's going on. From Neptune's perspective, everything here is a confusion and delusion. Seriously.
Wow.
From Neptune's perspective, we are hallucinating. We are believing that the finite reality is true, that there is, life and death, that things are solid, that we are all separate, that there is like confrontation and this, that's what Neptune is thinking. So it all depends on vantage point, basically, right? It all depends on who is looking, where is the perception coming from. So when we use delusion and confusion, we're operating from that finite kind of a limited perception of reality, and therefore we apply that interpretation to people. There are people with strong Neptune who will be connecting to other realms very comfortably. And nowadays, which is very relevant that we're talking about it now, I mean, the science, it's no longer a new age, that science is talking about multiple dimensions, multiple reality, interdimensional connection, parallel universes, multiple universes, which are all like one organism communicating with one another. So you see, it is actually a scientific fact. So we have already blasted the lid, of Saturnian perception of the finite reality we're in through science. And we can now understand that people who are communicating to other dimensional beings, or meeting spirits, or seeing things we don't see, or experiencing or traveling through time, they are not delusional anymore. They have labeled them, but they are not.
It's like the conversation about sane. It's we interpret if someone is conforming to societal norms and rules and regulations, then they're sane, and if they somehow don't fit in that, then they're insane. So it's the same conversation.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So obviously the old paradigm thinking, that reductionistic kind of rigid old science perception of reality have projected itself on definition of that energy, and then labeled it with all of these stigmas. And all of a sudden, the 12th house is insane asylum. Wow. You open the 20th century astrology books, it's basically, that's where you go. If you live in the 12th house, you're a cuckoo. So you see how important it is to heal a lot and bring a whole new expansive perspective, so we can expand with our perception.
I can also see, Natasha, how much damage could be done, with these existing labels, and with, especially when people are new to astrology, when they're getting their first reading, or when they're just starting to open up those books and they're reading that about the 12th house,
Yes, exactly.
Because then they're gonna, it's like this whole thing, there's something wrong with you, there's something wrong with your design, there could be a better design, but this is your design, and it's a trap in that.
Yeah, it is a big trap, and one day we really we will talk about it more extensively, because in my practice I have seen and done a lot of damage control, actually.
Damage control.
I have met quite a few people who would be telling me, well, I've been told by, this or that, but that I am going to be blah, 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 blah. I've been told that the best for me is this in this life. So, these people who have on their own through all this time have been struggling with that implanted message, not feeling aligned with it, and yet being kind of under the spell a little bit of this authority who told them that they better get ready for this kind of life.
Well, it's interesting. Once you hear it, it's actually hard to undo it. I actually think undoing it is probably actually not possible. It would require a transmutation or an alchemical process where you literally see it differently. Like you see the same thing from a different perspective.
Exactly. And it takes that inner centeredness and knowledge of oneself, it actually the similar process as dismantling and liberating from a lot of societal norms and definitions and conditionings. It's not different process. It's the same process as undoing or shutting down the old programs and tapes within ourselves, which are self-judgmental, which is insecure, which are defining ourselves, from very kind of negative perspective. And all of that, we are in the process of doing it right here, right now, as a conscious community. And that's why there is so many healing energies, and modalities and methods to clean and clear your psyche and to heal the ancestral whatever heritage. All of that, it's everywhere, because we are in the process of liberating so much, as well as we are in the process of co-creating. Okay, if not this, then what?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. It's just like when you change your diet, it's like, it's hard to just like remove a bunch of things without replacing them. So if it's like, if you start a diet, it's like, you can't eat this, you can't eat that, you can't drink this. It's really hard. But if it's like, okay, instead of this, have this, instead of this, have that, then it's easier. So
Exactly.
I think it's similar with our languaging in terms of, shifting how we're talking about things. It's like, okay, and instead of this perspective about this placement or this transit or whatever it is, how about this? Let's try this on, because this actually is more empowering, and this actually will help you co-create something that you actually want in your life.
Exactly. As I said, the energy, whether it's a planetary body, whether it's an aspect, any placement, any interplanetary connections, is presenting itself. And it's up to us to find the aligned way to express it. Of course, there are archetypical ways to that describe and define what is this particular energy about. However, the way we play things out, this is where our so-called free will comes in. We have a given placement or given energy. We have how do we want to play it out from our highest self? We can go this way. We can play it out this way. What are we choosing? And when we start choosing new ways of expressing every, whatever is going on, we are actually creating new neural pathways.
Right.
We are trailblazing, just for not only for ourselves, but for others as well. You see the magic?
100%. It is so magical. I mean, it even is think about it on a very practical level. So new neural pathway, new language, new vocabulary, new relationship with something. Very tangibly, you would then, if you were speaking to a child, present something very differently than you might have under the old paradigm lens that you were looking through. So that is a clear generational change, paving a way for a new generation, but it's also done energetically. We don't actually even have to speak to children in order for that to happen. It's happening energetically as well.
Exactly.
So, Natasha, this is so much fun. I'm so glad we're doing this, and I'm so thrilled that there are so many joining us and tuning in and also benefiting from this conversation. Like I said at the beginning of the last time we were on live, what happened is that Natasha and I were having these conversations all the time, and then it was like, we need to just invite everybody into this conversation and start a dialogue with all of you, because it's such juicy stuff and there's so much for us to explore here. And what Natasha said to me, I've just had the pleasure of spending 4 days with her on the Big Island, and what she said there is that we are actually blazing the trail. There actually isn't an answer, so to speak, to all of this. It's not Natasha up here teaching us how this is all done. It's actually that we are doing this together in real time. And so it is a co-creation between all of us. with that said, please share your comments, share your thoughts, your insights as you go about your day, your life. You can post under this video and we can just keep this conversation going. And every other week, Natasha and I will be in here furthering this conversation about astrology in the age of Aquarius, about the evolution of astrology and our language, our experience of astrology, our experience of the world. We're going to be going into things like predictions. You know, how do we work with predictions, and how is that done consciously? The ethics around actually giving a reading and what you say or transmit to someone, and things to consider around that conversation. It's going to be endless. I know we're going to continue. And we're also going to want to hear from you. What are you interested in hearing about? What's been sort of nibbling at you that's like, hey, I really would love a forum where we could have this kind of conversation. Share it with us. You to our monthly membership program. So we have something called Year of Astrology. It's a membership group. It is a very intimate group where we are literally walking with astrology in our lives on a daily basis. We are meeting on every new moon. We're meeting on every full moon. We have a forecast. We have a masterclass. We're going into depth into astrology, but really making it usable, practical. We have soul work every lunar cycle based on the themes of that lunar cycle, different soul work assignments that we're all working on together, that we're processing with each other. So this is a group that is available to all of you soon. You can get on the wait list now. It's closed right now, but you can get on the wait list and you'll be the first to know when registrations open again. The link for that is in the comments that are accompanying this video. So Natasha, we'll be meeting again in 2 weeks. Anything else that you would like to say, that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Yes, I would just like to join you in inviting everybody to participate in this creative process, because it can't happen without you. We are all in it together. We're all stepping and exploring and expanding ourselves and our relationship with reality, our relationship with the cosmos, with the planetary body, and it is an amazing platform to do it. Astrology Hub is the epitome of the Aquarian way of creating community, where you bring so many diverse, different perspectives and opinions, and you bring it under the same umbrella, and we unite in this exploration together. So yes, please bring it on.
Natasha, I have a juicy one. I don't know if you want to address this or save it for later, but I have a question that came through. So I'm gonna ask the question, and then you can decide whether this can be done here now, or if you'd like to take it for the next time. Okay. All right. So Leslie asks, so what would be a new way of acting out a Pluto square Venus transit? I can't see a new way.
She can't see a new way?
She can't see a new way. Pluto square Venus.
Well, first of all, I don't know what is the old way, according to Leslie. And we have to start with her telling us what is her perception, or what is her expectation, or what is her experience already, whether it's already started or she's in the midst of it, and so on. So it would help to have a little bit of a background, so we know where are we going to work from.
Okay.
You know, however, with any Pluto transits, it is a very juicy, powerful opportunity to, of course, revise the way Venus we love, we reflect ourselves, we meet the other, we value ourselves or not. You know, somebody comes with, Pluto comes from that square and it starts pushing all of that self-unworthy aspects which Venus might contain, and it will trigger it, and it will irritate it, and it will create pain, so that one can, embody that Venus and claim that Venus and come out in a complete, full, absolute self-adoration, self-love, and self-acceptance, without letting anybody to push you around, no matter how much emotionally you think you are attached or desire that person or this person, you come first. And unless you are whole, in your Venusian self-esteem, nothing can complete that, so it's just, but we don't know what the story is. We don't know what the perception, the starting perception is.
Okay, Leslie, so send us that. What is your perception of the Pluto square Venus, and yeah, what expectations are you bringing into that transit so that
actually I am having Pluto square Venus as we speak.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. Everything comes in a perfect timing,
Okay, so yeah, send us a little more information on that, Leslie. And thank you so much, Natasha, for being here with us today. Thank you all for joining, and I cannot wait to see you on the next session. Next week, I am going to be doing a Facebook Live on the eclipses. I cannot remember who I'm going to be doing it with next week, but that's okay. We'll be sending more information out about it, but it'll be Thursday, same time, 2 o'clock Pacific. We'll be talking eclipses. And then the week after that, we'll be back on with Natasha. All right, everybody, take care. And thank you so much for tuning in and for making astrology a part of your life.